Hi, it's Ben, and today we're going to go through the parts of the process of bringing your sprayer out of winterization. We're going to start off with the Equipment Plus app. If you don't know what the Equipment Plus app is, go ahead and download the Equipment Plus app in your App Store or your Google Play Store, and feel free to check it out. On the first page, you'll notice that the Equipment Plus app has taken the place of a few apps that John Deere has had in their system. It's throwing a fleet of equipment in there, from seeders to forage harvesters to planters to sprayers to tillage and balers, and it's a good way to look up anything you need to on these pieces of equipment that is relevant to that piece of equipment. So we're going to go ahead and go into the sprayer part of that app, and we're going to type in the model that we are actually working on, and we're going to just reference the service side of it. So when you go into the service part of the app, it's going to give you the recommendations all the way from 10 hours all the way up, and you're going to be able to go through step by step and see picture diagrams and also descriptions of what you should be doing with that machine. It doesn't completely take the place of the operator's manual, but it is a really good reference out there to be able to do your step-by-step maintenance on these pieces of equipment, especially on these sprayers. So big thing for the sprayer that we do want to highlight on the service side of things is any fluid levels or the greasing intervals. So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to drain our winterizer fluid from the sprayer. So go ahead and open that front sump if you have one, the side sump, and also the rinse tank sump, and make sure that you're in a good area to drain that winterizer fluid out and get that cleaned out of the system. So the next thing that I would do is I would start in on the main strainer from the tank and go ahead and pull that apart. And a lot of times this will be a good indicator of what we're going to run into farther down the line. So inspecting the wet system on this sprayer, we pull that main strainer out and we see a bunch of chemical residue in it and some junk built up. We know that we're probably going to encounter that all the way through the sprayer. So if it is built up and dirty, I would recommend going with a pressure washer with a adjustable wand, and go ahead, and if you have a burner on that machine, I would turn it on and get some hot water running through it, and go at a lower pressure with your pressure washer and spray that strainer off. And that seemed to work really good for us at RDO Equipment to get those strainers cleaned out. So I'd go ahead and start with that. Then I would move on to the flow meters on the machine. So pull them out of the housing, make sure the housing is free and clear of any chemical buildup, any residue, and also make sure that the flow meter itself is free of any chemical buildup or residue. One thing to keep in mind on these flow meters is they do tend to build a fluid-like film on them, and you can't see it with the human eye, but it is a good idea to take a can of John Deere brake cleaner and go ahead and spray these flow meters out, and that does a really good job of cleaning these things up and getting them ready to read correctly for the season. Actually, and I would go ahead and every time you switch chemicals, if you think about it, I would just do that. It's a good practice to do. So the inside flow meter closer to the tank is your standard flow meter, and then your high flow meter, if your sprayer is equipped, is the outside one closer to the outside of the sprayer. And then it's also a good thing at this time to double check the flow meter calibration numbers inside of that display with what's stamped on that flow meter. Then we're going to go ahead and move back to the boom strainers, and kind of the same process as that main strainer. I would go ahead and make sure there's no chemical buildup in these things or any junk built up in these things, and then go ahead and, if there is, take that pressure washer and dial that pressure back and get some hot water on those things. If you don't have access to that pressure washer, use some type of a brush and get those screens cleaned out really well. Then I would go ahead and pull an end cap aspirator. And you'll notice on the sprayer side of the end cap aspirator, on the actual stainless steel pipe, there's a lip there. And say we didn't get a good rinse before we winterize the sprayer, there's a potential that by that lip you're going to see some pretty good chemical buildup. So I would inspect that. Start by pulling one, and if you find some chemical on one, or pull a couple of them, and if you find chemical on one and not on another one, it's probably a good idea to check all of these out by removing them and making sure that they are clean, so you don't have any residue hanging up from the previous year. And we have seen it where on the stainless steel plumbing we do have to run a pressure washer through that tube, and there again, go at a lower pressure and a higher heat, and watch out for any electronics on the sprayer, but it does help break down that chemical residue. The other thing you can do is put any erase cleaner or some type of other sprayer cleaner in the tank and let it sit there overnight, and hopefully it breaks down that chemical into the next day and do a high pressure rinse with the system. Then you're going to go ahead and add some clean water to the system and go ahead and check for leaks. And if you're not sure of how to add clean water to the system, I would reference other YouTube videos on our channel, specifically the automated rinse solution system video. That'll teach you how to run a rinse cycle and get this system pressurized. When you are pressurizing that system, the leaks should be pretty apparent. So say a valve didn't quite get winterized properly, you'll see a crack on a valve or an O-ring that isn't seated, or anything on the boom side of things that if there's a leak, it should be pretty apparent at this time just coming out of winterization. If you do notice that you're getting some nozzle leakage, especially out of the exact apply nozzle body, we're going to want to see what is wrong with that nozzle body. So I'd recommend pulling that nozzle body apart. A lot of times the shuttles, we'll see we maybe have some residue built up in them. Other times we'll have to pull that shuttle apart and get into that poppet valve, and maybe there's a chunk of chemical or metal that is, built up in that shuttle. Want to go ahead and clean that out. You should be able to tell if the nozzle is dripping or not if you need to pull apart that nozzle body. Another good thing to do at this time is make sure all the O-rings are in really good shape on that nozzle body. If you are running a standard nozzle body and you do get some drip right away in the season, your diaphragm check valves may not be worn in quite yet for the season. Probably a good idea to run a few gallons of water through that system before you go ahead and replace those diaphragm check valves. They can be a little hardened over the winter time. After that, I would go ahead and install the nozzle tips. Make sure they're free and clear of any chemical. If you have to, use a tank cleaner and scrub those nozzles off. Make sure you get the O-rings installed when you're installing the nozzle, and you should be good to go on that side of things. One thing that doesn't get mentioned a lot, but we've noticed with equipment sitting outside on the lot, or if you have a sprayer sitting out in the summer, birds really tend to go to these controllers, both the sprayer rate controller and the boom controller. They like to go in, and underneath that plastic, they like to build nests. So I would definitely pull the plastic on those controllers and any other nook or cranny on that sprayer, and look for bird's nest, especially inside these controller boxes, and make sure there's no twigs or any foreign material rubbing up against those wires that could leave us with a bare wire and eventually electric problems with that sprayer. After that, I would operate the sprayer and make sure that all of the nozzle patterns look good and make sure that there's no leaks, and you should be good to go on the sprayer side of things. Also, review the operator's manual for anything that you might have missed in the process. The operator's manual is always the main tool that we want to go to reference anything on these machines.
Thank you for watching. Connect with us by subscribing to Precision Ag Answers on YouTube and following RDO Equipment Company on social media. Visit rdoequipment.com for more precision ag resources and solutions.